Well, well, well. What have we here? Is that a Mr. Bingsley? Kingsley, the Bingsley. The Kingsleyest cat that ever did Bingley or Kingsley. And I don't know. I think I get the feeling somebody wants a pat. Oh, somebody wants to play and bitey. Ooh, ooh. Claws out. Whew. Getting a bit carved up. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. You little gremlin. Gentle now. Gentle. Ooh. That's it. Wild, savage stuff. Whew. He's usually not that wrestly, but he has been a bit funny today. Beautiful, look at that. Look at that sky. A beautiful blue sky. He's usually not that wrestly, that bitey, but he's been a bit strange this morning. Really running in and out of the house quite fast, which is a bit unusual for him. And he wouldn't eat his food this morning, and then he's come back, and I had to I tried to feed him snacks yesterday and he wouldn't eat them at all, just wouldn't have them. And so I tried to slip some in his bowl with his other dry food, and he has gone on through the bowl and decided, no, it's contaminated with these treats that were bought for me, and I'm not going to get poisoned. Oh my God, what the heck? Wow. You're out of control today, pal. You are absolutely out of control. Yeah, like, just kind of weird today. He's actually really scratched me up. It's not too bad, but yeah, he, it's like, it's seriously like he thought those treats that I bought him were going to poison him. They were like dental for his teeth, things to chew on. And he's just like, nah. Put them in the dry food, won't touch the dry food. So I just chucked his bowl out and gave him a new scoop. And he's come in and he's eaten, but then he's like raced out of the house again. So he's sort of on, oh my God. He's just flown over the fence behind me. Just there. He just got up and like bolted. I didn't get it. You can hear him. You can hear him on the other side. I don't know whether I caught him there or not, but yeah, little psycho today. Oh, something in the air. It's a really nice day. I think he's like been on the crack pipe or something. Oh well. But yeah, he's actually like kind of a real thing that I want to say is that if anyone has any suggestions, like, he's a stray cat. I'll tell the story another time, perhaps. Or maybe I can tell it now, actually. I'm just gonna set the camera up. Yeah, so he's a stray. Next door, I think I've shot a clip. I'll do it again today, maybe. There's just an empty paddock next to us now. He was living under the house that was there. So there was just this abandoned house next to us, and it was pretty bad. Like, it was a rental for a long time, but the property owners, they never did anything nice for the house, for the property, which was such a shame because it was like a classic old weatherboarded. It was actually quite beautiful. But, you know, for them, it was just, you know, another investment property is classic Melbourne, and they lived like in the other side of town in like really posh area. Anyway, the next door house, the one that was there, yeah, it was just like, they never did anything nice to it. Like, it was really overgrown. They never got a gardener in, they never, like, whatever. And then around the time of COVID, because I think they put in an application to develop it before COVID, maybe. And so it was actually around COVID that the last tenant, who had been there forever, he finally moved out. But then they just let it go. And then COVID hit and the development stalled. You know, it was meant to get demolished and then developed. Nothing was going on, and then it just slid into neglect. And when I moved in, and actually a big part of the book that I talk about, the book that I'm writing with Mum, is like, when I moved here, you know, I wasn't doing very well myself. I was in a really bad place, but so was Mum. And when I moved here, like, the state of the property next door was really affecting this property as well. Mum had sort of let things go here. She wasn't doing well. She was like very depressed. And, you know, the place was kind of a shambles. And I sort of had my work cut out for me. It became this project because, as I say, like, I wasn't in a great space. I recently tried to off myself, and I was like, you know, I don't really want to be alive. I don't want to be around. And fixing up Mum's house became like this project, and I got like obsessed with it because I needed something to do because I wasn't working. I'd lost my job as well. And as I went along, I was like, dude, so many of the issues here are actually coming from next door. Like, when I got here, we had rats in the roof, and there was this massive rat population from the fucking overgrown backyard next door, and we had mosquitoes, and we had tons of spiders, and you know, it was just because the garden was so bad. And we had other kind of like nice things, like, you know, we had some ringtail possums, and they were really cute, and of course, but yeah, it was just like, it was so bad. And as I say, things were bad here too, but the more I tidied up here, the more I was like, you know, the rats are coming across on the tree line, and they're coming up onto our roof because the tree is coming, and all their plantation is leaning on our fence, and the fence is degraded. And it just became this thing of like, dude, what are you doing? So anyway, I blame my mother for that too, to some extent, because I'm like, why didn't you just call them? Like, why didn't you say this isn't good enough? Why didn't you say, hey? Anyway, I went around a couple of times and just did my own gardening of their property, because I just had enough of it, and also stuff that was leaning into our property was fine for me to cut. But I also went next door and just started hacking into a few things, because I'm like, fuck this, if you're not going to do anything about it, no one's going to care. But the thing that kept worrying me was that it looked like an abandoned house, and I'm like, dude, it looks like an abandoned house. People are going to start treating it like an abandoned house. They're going to start living in it. Anything can happen. And sure enough, the front yard, which had gotten completely overgrown, and I remember saying at some point, I think too, because we'd started communicating with the property owners, I was like, hey, you might want to tidy the front yard up so it just looks lived in, so it doesn't look like a abandoned house. And that woman was like, oh yeah, okay, but my sister's in charge, but my mom's in charge, but my sister, my mom. It was always the thing of one would brush you off and say it was really somebody else's thing, and it was never anybody's responsibility. And so I was just like, well, you don't have to live next to it, Anyway, left it. COVID, I was dealing with my own stuff, dealing with that with mom, and we were just trying to live our life here. But then sure enough, squatters move in, and moved in in kind of, it was just a little bit, I was like worried for my mom more than anything, because I was just like, I don't have a problem with squatters. I don't have a problem with people who need housing and don't have a house, of course, but it was just one of those things of you never know what's going to come with it. It turned out to be, they were actually fantastic. They lived for a year next door to us. And what was really ironic, funny, and really irritating was that once the squatters moved in, suddenly the property owners had a problem with the property. They were like, I can't believe someone's squatting in it. How dare they, sort of thing. And they actually came in person to inspect the property. And I was like, well, you've neglected it. What do you... And I'm also thinking well, how dare you own a house that you let go to shit and take up space? Can't the council turn the hot water and the electricity on and let somebody who doesn't have a house live there for a month or two? I know that's kind of a socialist, idealistic thing to say, but it's just an empty house. What are you doing with it? So anyway, they were up in arms because suddenly someone was in it, and it's you've just let it go to shit. What did you think was going to happen? I told you this was going to happen. So anyway, that's my little rant about that. But squatters moved in, but just before they did, I had noticed that there was a cat living under the house, and that cat is Kingsley, and we thought it was a girl, so we actually called her she. We were like, oh, she's around, the cat's here, yeah, what's she doing? And slowly calling her, thinking that she was a girl, we started calling her, there were a bunch of names at first, but we ended up calling her Lady. So Lady's around, I'm gonna go, have you seen Lady, da da da. And I'd noticed this cat, and so, but steadily the cat had started coming into our yard, and I was like, I can't remember when it was, but I just got to this point. I was irritated with all the gardening I was doing. I was irritated with the empty house. I kept seeing this cat. I really like cats, and I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna go buy some food. I know that's a stray cat that doesn't get fed, so I'm gonna put food out for it. And I did, and I started putting food out. And we have like two back entrances to the house. There's a sliding glass door and there's French doors, and both have these like brick steps. So I would put the food on the brick step this way in front of the French door, and I would be behind the glass in the house initially. And then she would start, or he, Kingsley, would start to wait on the fence and wait for me to come and put the food down in the bowl there and then go back in the house. But steadily I started putting the food down there, and then I would sit down at these steps. And I did that for weeks. Like, this took weeks and then like months progressively. And at first, Kingsley would absolutely bolt the food. He would eat really, really quickly and be looking around over his shoulder, quick. And then he'd finish and he'd go back over the fence, and that was it. But progressively, he started to eat the food. He'd come down towards me, but up against the fence. He would go nowhere near me, and then he'd just trot to the end and then go back over the fence further down.
Is that all tonight? Is that all I'm gonna get tonight? Really? Wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
That eventually became this thing where he'd come down and he'd brush against me and then run. And then he'd come down and he'd stop, and I was able to sort of just touch his head, and then he'd go. But always he ate quickly. Then started putting the food bowl on the brick step that I'd been sitting on and sitting next to him. And then I started putting the food bowl inside the house.
Did you like chicken? Roast chicken? It's just me. It's just me. It's okay. Is it scary out there at night? Is it scary out there at night? You know you've got a blankie here, a beddie. It's very safe here. You know it's safe here. I know you know it's safe here, and I know you know that you're getting fed, and I know you like it. And now you're next to me. And I think that you are happy here. Hello.
And over time, he also would occasionally come up the steps past me and poke his head into the house and then leave. And then he'd venture into the kitchen and then he'd leave. And then he'd go into the lounge room and then he'd leave. So he just kept coming deeper into the house. And to encourage that, I started setting the bowl in the foyer where he eats now. And then just one day he stayed in the lounge room. After he'd eaten. And then he kept staying in the lounge room after he'd eaten. And then one day he got up on me and started like putting his little paws on my chest. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Like, yeah, we're really bonding. Bella had always said it would never happen. She was like, he's a stray, he'll always be a stray, don't get your hopes up, kind of thing. I was like, no, like, I don't believe you. Like, and even if he was still stray and he would just come and eat, like, it's fine, I'd keep feeding him. That's cool. But I was also aware that, you know, the owners next door had this planning permit, and I was like, well, when that house gets demolished, what happens to that cat? And around the time he started coming in, that's when the squatters moved in. And then, because there were squatters in that house, he was kind of between properties. He would sort of hang out there in the day. He would come over more and more. He'd spend more time in our yard. He would come inside more into the lounge room after dinner. The routine was really mixed, but one night I had actually gone to bed, and I can't remember what had happened. Maybe I think I'd gone to bed, and because he'd been in the lounge after he'd had dinner, I'd sort of shut the door partially, because we just keep the door open a smidge for him. He just slips through. And usually I would get up, have a glass of water before I go to bed, and he'd be gone by then. And I'd be like, well, he's sleeping under the house or whatever. Like, he's not my cat at this stage. But one night I'd gone to bed, and he just materialized in the bedroom. And then he got on the bed. I was lying on my stomach, just reading or playing with my phone or something. And he got up on the bed, and then he got up on my back, and he was just walking all over me, and he stayed over. It was like our first sleepover. That's pretty much been it. From there, it was like, oh, okay, so you're gonna stay over now. And like I say, with the squatters there, it was like, well, he's kind of getting moved out of that house anyway because they're there. But he would go, and I'm pretty sure he would go into the house with them. I mean, like, they were... By the way, I just want to say, those squatters were the best neighbors we ever had. They were so quiet because they didn't want to get caught. But they were really respectful. And they were lovely. And they, guess what? They did all the fucking gardening that the goddamn property owner never did. So, but yeah, that's basically the story. And then squatters moved out at some point, like I say, sort of after about a year, or the best part of a year. Maybe it was 9 months, but it was close to a year. Anyway, they moved out, and not long after that, the property got demolished. And so now it's just a big paddock. And around the time it got demolished, I decided to officially, properly adopt Kingsley. So I'd been feeding him, I think, 6 months-ish, on and off, but like I said, it had gotten more serious. He'd started sleeping over, and I was like, okay, I've got to do the right thing here. And yeah, took him to the vet, got him microchipped. I didn't want to do any of these things because I was really worried that I was scared they'd take him off me. I was scared like they'd find that he was microchipped and it was a cat that's run away and they'd give him back or something. But I was also like, I love him. If somebody's lost him, then they deserve to have him back, right? But it all worked out how I kind of hoped. Like he didn't belong to anybody, and he was stray, as we kind of assumed. Sorry, this angle's just bothering me for some reason. And yeah, got him microchipped, got him registered with all the appropriate things, vaccinated, got him taken care of. And he's gotten much healthier looking. Like, once he was getting fed regularly, he started looking better. He was very scrawny and he had lots of scabs on his nose. Like, he was, we were worried about what that could mean, but it was just fleas, I think. I mean, insects, because he was sleeping under a house, right? So, and also because we heard him fight other cats a few times in the middle of the night. Like, you'd hear a bit of a cat fight outside and you'd be like, oh shit. And that was the other thing that was worrying me for him, was like, you're sleeping under a house, I know it's going to get demolished eventually. Like, where are you getting your food? What the fuck is with your nose? Stop getting into fights because you're going to get like FIV. So yeah, he was pretty wild little guy. But yeah, you know, so now he lives with us and he's got a name tag and he's like pretty domestic. But today he's a little rascal today. But that is the Kingsley story, and yeah, that's it. That's the Kingsley story. I love him, but he is an absolute piece of shit today. And that was kind of the question that I was asking, was he doesn't eat treats. It's taken like a lot of effort to get him to play. He doesn't sort of understand play. He loves his tennis ball and a few other balls that we have, and he'll chase them around. And also if we set up like box, like an empty tissue box, or like actually it's still set up inside, like a cylinder, like a toilet paper roll or a paper towel roll, and just put something on top of it, like his tennis ball. He loves, like, it's like a little thing, he'll like flick it out. I get the tennis ball and put it in an empty tissue box, and he will have fun like with that as like a puzzle, and he pulls the ball out. He'll do things, but he doesn't play for long. But he will not accept treats, and it's kind of sad. Like, I brought you a treat, just enjoy it. But he's just not. He doesn't get it. So is that common with people's cats? Is that like a stray thing? I don't know. Yeah. If anyone has any ideas, shoot them our way. Thanks. Bye.